I thought we could just look at because you've done a lot of artistic work in your life. Do you have a count of how many plays, how many movies?
No.
You don't keep a count?
No. I'm sometimes surprised when someone said, I Googled, I hear you did a movie in 1982. I said, what was it? No, I don't. My life is about now, the things that I want to do, the things that challenge me, the things that I feel are important that we bring them to the table of discussion, or the idea I have of how would I use my art as a writer, as an actor, as a director, and unashamedly so as a cultural activist. So those are the things then for. So each project is followed by the next project, and the next project, and the next project. And for me, the most important one is the one I'm involved with now. And then later I look back and I says, wow, I've done more than 50 plays, 100, I don't know how many they are. I've done more than 20 to 30 movies. You know, I've done more television work abroad and in this country. So when I only look back, but I don't have a count that would quickly come in my mind.
Yes.
All I know that I've got more than 25 Lifetime Achievement Awards. I should be dead by now.
I wanted to ask you, let's right at the beginning. You are in New Brighton.
New Brighton.
How do you end up in the theater and then you end up in Joburg and all over the world practically? How did you get into the theater? What attracted you to the theater? Were you always wanting to be an actor or an entertainer?
You know, Mike, you grow up in the township born in 1943 on the 30th of August. So as you go to the 45 and the 46 and you go to school, you know, in early 51, 52, and all your parents are trying is to get you a standard 6 certificate so that at least you can get a job that not as a laborer. So that of course you could also with the standard 6 certificate go into the bar and buy a bottle. Because black people are not allowed to buy liquor in public outlets. You have to use, we called them mules those days. You'd use a colored guy to go in and buy, my father's bottle of eau de mieste. But you grow up then in New Brighton, which was at that time the hot seat of the campaigning, of mobilizing the youth to be able to be moved out of the country, to go and to do military training. That's what occupied us most as young people in the early 50s and the early 60s. Is like we wanted to be underground operatives. We didn't even know how to spell the bloody thing. But we had to be ready because as soon as we hear Usoteu, there was this 1320, the blue van of the police that was driving around looking at any groupings of people. So as soon as we say 13320, we jump and we run. And Sis Petrie, who was a big mama, you know, those 56 double D cup, she jumped over the fence much faster than all of us. And that then mixed my life with wanting to be educated, wanting an education, also wanting to be part of the movement that was happening within New Brighton, within the Eastern Cape. So then you pass with your matric and you think, right, now I'm ready. I register at Forte and I get accepted. I'm going to do a law degree. And I had an uncle who was like our eldest brother, Uheri Kani, Ustel. He was, my father was the only person who paid for education because those days the education of a black child was not compulsory and it was not free. So you paid from grade nothing. So the parents struggled to keep the kids at school. I still remember going to Cowan Secondary School, Emadala Street. The school fees was R1 issue me a year. And people could not afford issue me, which is the equivalent of about R10 now, a year, and people could not afford. So I walked in this rehearsal that Winston was in it. I was not in it. Uzani Kubawe, he was playing Guguletu, a really beautiful play. And there was a young man there who played Uzwilake, the father. And he came home so drunk that he could hardly stop and fall. And my mouth, because the teacher allowed me to stand at the back waiting for Winston.
Okay.
So as soon as the rehearsals are over, we walk together home. New Brighton. Right. So when I said, come on, nobody's drunk like that. And the teacher said, excuse me? I said, nobody gets drunk like that. That's too much. How the hell is he going to make it home? And then he said, well, show me how. I said, I'll tell you something. When my father is very drunk and is coming home, he tries 150% to show my mother he's sober. So you go against it. So my father would walk like this, and he's only trying to get to the door handle, and he looks at the distance between the door and the bedroom, and he counts how many steps to the bed, and he suddenly falls on the bed. But my mom knew that he was completely drunk. The young person was given another role. I played Winston's father, 1962, and thus began my bug for this acting, for this storytelling format, for this drama, for this communicating and telling a story to an audience and feeling the audience receiving. And we had an incredible time. That's when I met Winston. 1965, I hear from Fats Boholan that there's a group called the Serpent Players. These guys are rehearsing at the old campus in Bird Street, Port Elizabeth. There was a Rose outside. There was a Rose University campus there, a small one. So I went to check them out. So Fred said, come man, let's see what's happening, you know, because we need some young people. We're doing a play. But I've already heard that they are the strange group because they don't do musicals. They all do English things. Go Mr. M, excuse me. Go Norman Chinga. Go Welcome Duhu. Go Maligan Bikwana. Go Mabel Magada. Those are the creme de la creme of the socialites, man. These are the Osis brothers respect, man. They're doing a play called Antigone by Sophocles. And I walked in, first as I walked past the door to this dilapidated, to be demolished building, Kempston Road. Yeah, just opposite the police station. So I walked past, there was a poor looking white man smoking a pipe with a brown jersey with the elbows showing. I didn't even say hi to him. I walked past and I got in. And when I was inside, and Fed said to the others, put Maligan, put Mondo, put George, put Shakum Gokula, Zitishara is, Banina, Nandishupinyaneng. So I said, hi. And Fed said to me, hey, this young man has been in plays, so at least he's got an idea. So maybe we can use him as well. And then that white man comes in. And Fed says, hey, Athol. That was Athol Fugard. Hey, Athol, this is John. John, this is Athol. This is now 1965. It's the first time in my life I'm introduced to a white person on a first name basis. It was not John, this is Mr. Fugard. Mr. Fugard, this is John. He just said, my vet said, hey, John, this is Athol. Athol, this is John. And Athol said, hi, John. Said, hi, Athol. I thought, okay, I'm not going to be arrested for disrespecting a white person. But doing Caesar Banzi is dead around Joburg. We are at D.H. Williams. We are at Uncle Tom Hall. We are at DOCC. We go to the Tembisa. We go to Mamelodi. We're performing in school classrooms, you know. And we got Caesar Banzi dead. We don't even aware how powerful this thing is. Because the only thing that indicated, why are the police so interested in this? Black people were afraid to come and see Caesar Banzi is dead because we could all be arrested. When I got my father to see the play, and he and my mother were wanting to walk out because they said it's a political meeting. This is Caesar Banzi is dead. There are 200 seats and there are 700 people in the hall. So we had to perform in a corner. And suddenly a young director from London, the Royal Court Theatre, English Stage Company, sneaked in and saw the play. When we were doing it in Cape Town. He had come to see a mother who's aging mother in Cape Town, went back to England and said to the English stage company, I've seen something. I've never seen theatre that way, ever in my life. So we get the invitation immediately to go to England.
And it's you and
Winston Johnner? Yes, and of course Athol, the director. While we are waiting, because Athol at that stage was banned, so now we have to apply for a passport. But he then applies. Winston applies, I apply. Right. Athol in 3 weeks gets the passport. Winston in about 9 or 10 weeks gets the passport. I don't. Well, of course my involvement. Of course my brother, my uncle is on Robben Island doing 5 years, Ustela. Of course me, I've been detained, I've been chased. Of course my younger brother, Ukolile, who was shot by the police in 1985, has been part of that. So I knew it would be impossible. So what we then do is to inform the English stage company that we are unable to come because John can't get a passport to come. And the English stage company got to talk to the High Commissioner. I still remember, as I said to Mr. van der Walt, of what do you mean you can't give an actor a passport to come and do a play in England? Do you know how much money we've already invested in promoting and marketing? And then I get the call that I should come to Pretoria. To come, live in New Brighton. And I knew a friend of mine, Janet Suzman, who is the niece of Helen Suzman. So I said, can your aunt help? He said, okay. So I get then the call from the aunt here, Helen Suzman. John, you can go to the Civitas building. It's on the phone. I mean, PE. Civitas building on a phone and go there and get a passport. So I arrive here. This is now 1973. Yes, 73. A friend of mine who lives in Joburg, Manny Menem, who later founded the Market Theatre.
Oh, yeah.
He drives me in a Kumbi to Pretoria. So he stops. And it's the first time in Pretoria, and it's lunchtime, because my appointment is 2:30. I've never seen so many people in uniform. I come from a small town, Port Elizabeth, man, in a main street car. I've never been on a city. Everybody in Pretoria was in uniform. So I go in, many waits outside. I get shouted here. Who the hell do I think I am? That they should receive instructions from the leader of the opposition, that they should give me a travel document. Who the hell do I think I am? I'm standing there thinking, do I get Hardegat and say to hell with you and don't get the passport? Because I want to go overseas. You see, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I also want to go overseas.
You have to go and perform. Yeah.
So I keep quiet. And this, how do you know Helen Suzman? I said, no, I have a friend of mine who is in England now. She's an actress. She's Janet Suzman. It's her aunt. So when I said to them, I'm still having a problem, they say maybe the aunt could help. So finally, he pulls a drawer and he gives me, here, go. It's brown. I know the South African passport is green. You know, with that logo of the Springboks like this. This is brown. And this thing is written document for travel purposes. I still have it. Open the page, nationality unbepaald, stroke undetermined. Nationality undetermined. Next line, the South African government bears no responsibility whatsoever of the bearer of this document. Meaning if I were to be arrested in England or deported, the South African wouldn't pay the fees. I'm standing there, I'm so many. He said, well, the only thing we can do, we can try and see what happens. So the day to leave for England, we arrive, I get to Port Elizabeth, we go at the then Jan Smuts, I hand it over. The guy looks at me, next I go. I arrive in London at Heathrow, now I'm trying to find a nice looking face so that I could explain what is this document. So I go there and this white woman says, what is this? I said, it's my, I couldn't call it passport, it's my travel document. What do you mean undetermined? What is your nationality? I said, I'm an African. I'm South African. He said, what's written here? Jesus, the bloody government. Then open the Royal Court Theatre. I hear there's a bit of a rumble outside. Packed. We're going to do Caesar Barnes is dead. And there's also, people are talking about, there are some people here who, I don't know whether you know them, they belong to some of these exiled groups. So we open the play. Wow. Every time we sing a song, the people, every time we make a comment, there's people in the audience saying, yeah, yeah. So in the end, you go to this press conference, and then we are taken quickly to another room and to meet. There were about 4 people, but in front was Ower Tambo, Adelaide, Trevor Huddleston, and Robert Gesher. It made that night like a Royal Command performance. The English went wild. We became stars the following day. We arrived from New Brighton and landed in a room, rehearsed, and the following day, everywhere. There was a line in front of the theatre. I will never forget the opening of Caesar Barnes is Dead in London, where Ower Tambo said to both Winston and I, what you did tonight in an hour and a half is what we've been trying to convince the British politicians and decision makers about the inhumanity of the apartheid system. No one is asking of us about the play. Every interview wants to know about Sharpeville, about 76, the murder of the children, about apartheid, about Robben Island, about the struggle of the ANC, about Nelson Mandela. But when we opened on Broadway, then suddenly we heard that we were nominated for the Tony Award. So we had to find out what's the Tony Award. Oh no, it's the highest accolade ever in the theater. It's an equivalent to the Oscar. So, okay, this time we added in the repertoire the island, right? So Winston is nominated, I'm nominated, and then Arthur is nominated for Best Director. Then Winston and I again nominated for Best Writer.
In relation to which one?
Both of them.
Both of them.
So we are what we don't know yet, whether was I nominated for Caesar and Winston was nominated for the island. On a Sunday, we go to the Tony Award event. We get a bit of a brown suit and a black suit. We arrive, remember when you do the island, our heads are shaved clean. We arrive at the same time with the mayor of New York, but we're just walking behind. So we were seen as the bodyguards. Me and Winston were seen, they could perhaps be the bodyguards of the mayor. We sit down. You know the bookie thing that Peter Firth is like 14-10 to win the best actor. Yeah. What is Anthony Hopkins? You know, so-and-so, Ben Gazzara, Jane McCallum. These are big actors. There was even Murder, She Wrote, Angela Lansbury. There was also what you call the nominees for Best Actor are first John Kani, Anthony Hopkins, so-and-so, Rex Harrison, Winston Shonai. So we're laughing sitting there, packed. And then Walter Matthau says, oh no, the winners are, for the first time, the Tony was given to 2 actors, not sharing it. One got a Tony because they couldn't separate the performances. So they decided to honor both actors with the Best Actor Tony Award. We won the Tony on a Sunday, on a Tuesday because Monday is off. And then we looked at the salary Friday. There were 2 zeros to what we were offered before. There were 2 zeros. If you can remember, going to the bank, it was the Manhattan Bank, we had to open an account. I can't keep this money in the bedroom now.
Your family,
Yes.
you know, it seems to have been impacted directly, you know. So you're not like telling a story or a hearsay.
No, not at all. Not at all. The point is, I normally say when apartheid was discriminates, it did not discriminate on who you are. You could have been a teacher or a doctor. You still have to carry a passbook, and you can't go to a restaurant. You can't do this. You have to live in the community, in the townships, on rural areas, and in the Wage Act bill, you cannot be paid equal to a white person. And which became, when I started my theater career, like in the early 80s here, there was something that was called the management secret. Having won a Tony Award, doing plays in South Africa, it's like, how much is John paid in comparison what other actors, white actors, are paid? So management could not divulge that because it might cause an unhappiness. When you look at the difference between the salaries. And the management treated me as an international. The language we use, our attitudes are embedded within us. We need a re-education of self in order to fully accept non-racialism. It's not something that's going to happen organically by osmosis. There's too much in each of us of the past. And that past must come to a point where we honestly confess on the table and say, teach me, I will teach you.
And just to go back to the truth, the whole question of reconciliation and forgiveness, how far do you think as a country do you think that we've made progress? Do you think
we put a large band-aid. No, we put a large band-aid around the wound. The problem with the band-aid, it has to be removed sometimes. And when you remove it, the scabs of the wound are still there itching. And once a time, as you scratch, there's a little bit of bleeding. It's still there because it was not a national project by all the people. There were people who totally did not buy into into reconciliation. In Kunene and the King, I say to the white character, I don't think you even went to the Truth and Reconciliation. He says, why would I go there? There was nothing to be forgiven for. I didn't harm any of you black people. I didn't go there. There was nothing to be forgiven for. You see, so there is still simmering below. We could have all the rugby and the sport, we could have the progress, but it's all measured. It's all measured, even by media. It's measured on how far we've moved into creating this non-racial society. When you become the chief editor of the Sunday Times, there are articles written, suddenly your credentials are investigated, your degrees are investigated, but it was Mr. Sutherland who was chief editor. Life is normal. When a black businessman suddenly makes money and invests on the stock exchange, we've got to find out if there were any other tenders that led him to making so much money. There are people who made it their own duty, and most of them are white, to discredit black excellence, black achievement, and black leadership. Now, I call black people who now join in that choir, that they are his master's voices. They are now black in boardrooms criticizing. It's not you criticize people. For me, I don't understand that when you criticize the government, you should criticize the 400 people of that National Assembly. You should criticize in all the 9 provinces. They form government. They get salaries that are plus $1 million a year. All of them. And they are government. Why then, when there is a problem of a pothole and suddenly there's something called the ANC, suddenly there's something called the ruling party, what about the fact that we're government?
Yes. I mean, someone might say, at your age, you've done everything that you would have liked to do. Now, are there other frontiers that you would like to explore?
It's okay to be like a front runner. It's okay to be a person who makes things possible, who opens doors for the other generation coming. But you need also to prepare that generation for the things they don't know that come with fame. You need also to prepare that generation how that maintenance of financials when you are an artist and you know nothing about finances. Also, we need to get to a point where the arts play a critical role in nation building, in reconciliation, in social justice, that we see artists respected and recommended. When Biden is running for presidency, he has to state clearly what is his policy towards the arts. then he will get the actors, and because actors will a huge influence in the on the voter population. When you in England, you have to not just I'm a minister of the arts and blah 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 and heritage. You got to address the arts community and say, as a president, as a party, if we win, this is what we will do. Now, when if I could get my government to that point that recognizes the importance and the input of the arts into creating a normal society, into creating a creative society, into integrating the arts in the educational curriculum, so that the children know that if you are an artist, you're not just lazy because you don't want to get a job. You don't know how many parents come to me to talk their kids out of wanting to be an artist. I said, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?
Isn't that what your old man tried to do?
Of course he did, but that was in the 60s, so he had no idea.
Yes.
Right. But now, also I'm very proud by the fact that I bumped into somebody who said, you came to speak at my school. I'm now the commission chief editor of a big a company within the creative industry. I'm working for DSTV, I'm working with SABC. I said there, my parents understood that there is a future in what I want to do, because I kept saying, look at John Kani, look at John Kani. So that makes me proud in that way. But I still believe that we have not given the arts culture a dignified space within just the structure of government and its structure of the society as a whole. We have not fully recognized the importance of arts in the education of a child and of a society. And I can say that these past 5 years, I have seen a lot of improvement. I mean, the latter years of the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, there's been a great movement of trying to move into this constituency and understand the needs. And I've said one time that even the president must at some stage when he delivers the SONA make reference to the arts and culture. And that would help to get the people's mind into thinking it is a viable choice as a profession. Because it does two things: it entertains and it educates.
But where do you see yourself in all of that? In addressing, yes.
As a storyteller, I'd love to sit down with 1,000 kids and tell them about there once upon a time there was a monster called apartheid, when they have no idea of what I'm talking about. No idea. I'd love one day just to speak to movement of artists, to use the art as it speaks directly to the population about certain things that are critical in our society to build a good, stable society, an economy that gives people the dignity of a job, the dignity of a place called a house. I'm not talking 4 blocks making an RDP house. When I can drive to work and drive through suburbs. Right. So my stories will continue at 80, because now I have the privilege of saying what I like and not apologize and don't care the hell how it affects you.
and that you'd be on stage, you'd still be writing, in other words.
Writing will continue. Directing is getting much stronger. Movies are wonderful. I've just did a movie in England called The Teachborn Claimant, and we needed a judge at the Old Bailey. And the actor coming, Sir John Gielgud, he was 94. He was 94. He came on set and we sat him down, and there he delivered the summation of a long, one of the longest running cases in England about suing the state, or suing they call it His Majesty's Royal whatever. But he was 94. So it gives me this kind of hope that maybe my last performance would be at 95, where I just sit down on a chair and start the play. And then they wheel me off and then come in later and finish the play which I had written and directed and be paid more than them put together. No, I have
So
no.
you're not intending to
I have
stop
no-
and
I don't know
sit
because-
under a tree and
No, it was not like that for me. I had the purpose of becoming an artist. I had a target. I had a commitment. I had a journey I wanted. And I don't see the end of it yet. I still feel there's so much still to be done.
And how do you relax? Just lastly,
Family.
because you seem to be fit. Do you exercise? Do you run? Do you
No.
do you work?
I walk. I do a lot of walking around the house and around there and around my neighborhood. My son is trying to make me jog. And I've been asking him to explain
This is Atandwa?
No, Matando is
another-
in New York, but he's back here for me
Okay,
now. No, my son and this and all the others. I got 4 sons. Now, he would say to me, let's jog. I said, no, make me understand. We're going to run from here to 5 kilometers, and then make a U-turn somewhere and end up here. I'm here already. I can't see the point of us going 5 kilometers that way. The purpose of that whole thing is to be back where I'm standing. I'm I'm here already. No,
So it's light
it's-
stuff. Like
it's my diet. It's the food I eat. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do nothing that I know that my body is my instrument. My voice is the only equipment I have. My health is a guarantee to a job. My morals and discipline and decency are why I'm attractive to great roles and great producers. I don't carry baggage that he could have, should have, not have. I have looked after the brand John Kani with jealousy. If you say me, can you join us? I look at it how it's gonna impact on who I am. I've turned down more movies than I've done. Because I will not do something that is a disservice to humanity. And until all people on the face of the earth, and not one of them is in prison as we speak because of what they believe in, because an ideology that they hold that could be different from those that are in power. As long as that is happening, I have a job to do. As long as there's a child who cannot go to school, who is abused, I have a job to do. As long as there's a woman who is abused and cannot get out of a very violent and mean society, as long as there's a man who is being ostracized by society because of sexual preference, I have a job to do. You see, I'm loading myself, and my mom would say, "You're not Jesus. Some of the things you must just walk past." I said, I can't. My problem is I see. That's my problem. I see and I feel. And it bothers me to see an old woman with 16 plastic bags carrying food, and she's in her 70s. She had children. She made dreams of children come true. It's not black tax, you fools. It is decency. It is being human. It is African to look after parents and grandparents. It is African. It's not black tax. It's African. And you young boys pay lobola. It's an investment into your future and the future of my daughter. Because I don't want that, but I'm going to give it back to you anyway. But don't tell me that it's an archaic custom. And when other countries and other nations are sticking into their culture, some of those cultures are centuries old, but every year they celebrate those cultures. I can talk about everything except I must not talk about Sharpeville. I must not talk about the youth uprising. I must not talk about apartheid. We've moved on. How does my son know how we got here? How does my son not value this democracy and understand that it cost? There's a price to it, and that price is lives. So we will constantly refer to that past. And it is a critical component in the present to decide our future.